Hello guys, and welcome to Nugiyen's Guide to the Demon Hunter class, part 1. Today we'll be talking about damage, we'll be talking about hatred regeneration, discipline regeneration, and active and passive skills of the Demon Hunter. Enjoy! So to start off this guide, we will go over the most important thing for most Demon Hunters, which is their damage. As you can see, my damage is just around 78,000 damage. This damage I have calculated without any help of passive skills. This is my damage only applied or only helped by items. So what can items give you in terms of damage? So to start this off, we are going to look at my damage on my weapon. My weapon, as you can see, has 1330.6 DPS per second, which is how most people would look at damage initially on weapons. But what is equally as important, if not even more, is actually the damage range, the 970 to 1449 damage. Damage per second is calculated by taking your base damage, the lower and upper range, which is 970 to 1449, divided by 2 to get the average, and then multiplied by the attacks per second on the weapon, which is the 1.2. But all damage is based on the base damage of the weapon, which is the damage range of the 970 to 1449. Next up is attacks per second. Attacks per second is calculated by taking your base attacks per second from your crossbow or whatever other weapon you have. In my case, it's a crossbow with 1.1 attacks per second, and then you multiply all the different attack speeds from your items, 15% attack speed increased from quiver and so on, rings, and in my case also my enchantress, which gives me 3%, and that in turn gives me 1.46 attacks per second. Thirdly, we have at the moment the biggest way to increase your damage, the critical hit and critical damage multiplier. As you can see, I have 47.5 crit and a multiplier of 2.70 critical damage. This has already been increased by the passive skill archery. Because I have a two-handed crossbow, I get 50% more. So in total I have 270 critical hit damage. How do you then find out what multiplier you get from this? You take the critical chance times the critical damage divided by 100 and add a 1. Then you have your multiplier. Last but not least, we have the dexterity multiplier, which is the easiest one to figure out. It is 1 percentile per dexterity, so you have 2070% increase. Adding all these factors together, along with the passive skills, then we find out our actual damage, which is the base damage times the attacks per second times the critical hit critical damage multiplier times the primary stat, in our case dexterity multiplier, and times the if you have any kind of damage multipliers in your passive skills. In my case, I have steady aim, which is a 20%, or in a decimal number, 1.20. Like 1.20 is our multiplier. So we add all these together, and we find that my damage is just around 105k damage. So now I'll show you a clip of my damage applied in the real world of Diablo 3. Here you can see I have removed my active skill, so I only have the arrow shot. This in fact is your real damage. If you look at the number on your damage screen in your stat page, every time you shoot an arrow, and if you do that continuously, I will get 105k damage. So that is also why you will feel a difference compared to which skill you use, because different skills have different multipliers. As you can see here in my next clip, I clearly do a lot more damage. I actually do a 155% damage modifier on top of my normal damage, because I use Nether Tentacle. This has, every time it hits a 155% damage modifier. You might have tried something like Ball Lightning and you would only see half the number. The reason for this is that when you shoot Ball Lightning, it has a chance to hit multiple times. It hits, and every time it hits, it gets a 0.78 times multiplier, which is half the damage, but since it almost always hits 2 times, you get the same multiplier, or you get the same damage. So next up is Hatred. Hatred is our main resource for most of our damaging or highest damaging abilities, such as Elemental Arrow, we have Cluster Arrows, we have Spike Traps, and so on. So how do we actually get more of this resource in order to use these abilities more? There are 2 ways. Either we regen over time, or we generate them by firing shots. First off, I'll just look at the regeneration and what that can give you. Normally, we sit at a base hatred regeneration of 4. You can increase this number in 3 ways. You can get hatred regeneration on items, such as Quiver. You can get it on one-handed crossbows, and there are also other legendary items that can give you hatred regeneration. Next is from your skills. We have a skill called Bat Companion, which will give you 3 hatred regeneration per second. That is almost double of what we have with only our base regeneration. Here in this next clip, you can clearly see the difference between using a bat and not using one. In effect, giving you almost, without any actual generator, giving you almost double the amount of hatred. You can also get hatred by using another companion, the Templar, which will, I think it gives you 1 hatred per second. The other way of gaining hatred